We're here with Senator Jennifer Carroll Foy, and we wanted to be here today just to thank you for reaching out to us and speaking with us this year about some of the needs that we had as the Virginia State Police Association and our members. It's obvious to our members now that you've been an advocate for us, and we wanted to have this interview this morning basically to thank you and just talk a little bit about what your session's like. And before we get started, you and I served together for maybe 2 years. Mm-hmm. You came in 2017 in the 2nd House District, and I was still in the Senate at the time. And we may have crossed paths a few times, but not a whole lot. Mm-hmm. And then you left pretty early to run for governor and second place in that race. And how was that race as far as the nomination for you? Did you travel very much?
So unfortunately, because the campaign was happening during COVID, we were really on lockdown. So most of the communications I had and the contact that I had with folks was unfortunately over Zoom. And it's hard to get people fired up,
True.
Over video, but we did the best that we could and put out our vision and our values and, really tried to let people know we were in the fight for the right reason. So I'm really excited and I'm really privileged to have that experience.
Well, and looking at your background, you're very driven.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, to go to VMI in the 3rd female cadet class that you graduated in, it takes a lot of drive to do that. But just give us some background about where you grew up. I see you were in Petersburg.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
And
So born and raised in Petersburg, Virginia. I was raised by my grandparents. So by the time I came along, they had everything figured out. It was a well-run machine, and they had me in church 3 days a week. So I was
good for them.
Yeah. Bible study, choir, regular church, children's church. And so I always grew up with the values that my job is to house the homeless and to feed the hungry. And I didn't know anything else. My grandmother always kept our door open. So when people from the church or the community fell on hard times, they would come live with us. And I thought that's what everyone did. And so when people ask, why did I become a foster mom at such a young age? That's why. I really believe that injustice and fairness, that's my North Star. And I believe no one should go to bed hungry. I believe everyone deserves safe and affordable housing and health care. And so I think all the values that I hold and the reason why I do what I do is really because of that foundation. Mm-hmm. So it really motivated me to lead a life of service.
Well, you're not separated a lot from where I come from Southwest Virginia,
That's
where,
right. Yeah.
There's a lot of needs there.
Mm-hmm.
And so those needs are great within Petersburg and where you grew up, and much like where I grew up. Mm-hmm. Families brought in families, and
that's right.
Help raise families. Mm-hmm. And it's a lot of what you grow up in, the values that you understand.
That is correct. And I also learned just traveling the Commonwealth is that the same challenges that Petersburg had, so does Pulaski.
Sure.
So does Portsmouth. And you have these shared communities that just, come on hard times. The schools need more funding, the roads need paving, more jobs. And so I see this commonality. And I think to focus more on the people who have the least is one of the drivers that keep me doing this. And I'm sure you're doing it,
Sure.
Your work as well.
Well, 18 years in the General Assembly, House and Senate, and now working statewide with all of our troopers and retirees. So our association is made up of many different, our retired guys stay in our association. Our active guys are in, and we have dispatchers and command staff and secretaries, everything. Mm-hmm. We have membership available to all of them. So we have everyone in there, and trying to keep up with the needs statewide is very tough.
Yes, it is.
And that's why we appreciate you just listening and offering to put up these bills. The Senate Bill 781, which gives our retired guys the ability to ask for the law enforcement officers' publication personal information to be disclosed, so that they don't get it out in the public. And a lot of that comes from our retired agents.
Absolutely.
That work undercover.
Yeah.
And being a criminal defense lawyer and public defender and all the things that you've done in your career, you can understand that part.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I was actually a magistrate, judicial officer in Richmond for a while. So I worked very closely with our Virginia State Troopers when they were looking for warrants and protection orders and chasing behind people who violated registering as sex offenders. So seeing the dynamics there, and then working with law enforcement officers, seeing the challenges we have in mental illness and emergency custody orders and transportation. So you really get behind the scenes look at what's working, what's not. Right. And then being a legislator, you have the unique position to do something about it. So I know for me, I know that our law enforcement officers put their life on the line every single day. And that when there are circumstances where people are running away from danger, it takes a special type of person to run to it. Right. And that's what our officers do. And we want to ensure that because our Virginia State Troopers are protecting us in the General Assembly, we need to protect them. So they put themselves in intentional danger, whether it's investigating crimes, whether it's going after gang activity, criminal enterprises, but they open themselves up to threats and harassment, and they put their lives and their families at risk. So we want to do all that we can to ensure that if it's needed, that their information, their personal information is protected. I think that's the least that we can do for all that law enforcement do for us.
Well, and we're a unique agency. Mm-hmm. We're at the mercy of you. No one else. We don't have supplemental incomes that come in from localities. Mm-hmm. We're yours. Yeah. We are your agency. Mm-hmm. And we depend upon you for funding for everything that happens in Virginia for our agency. And our agency is unique in the fact that we, smaller departments that don't have the technology or means to investigate a high-tech crime or whatever, we go in and we do that investigation, mm-hmm. and we turn it over to the local agencies. And they basically get the credit for it because we're not here to get credit. We're just here to assist.
Yes.
And a lot of our guys are deep undercover a lot of times with mm-hmm. gangs and with drug cartels. Mm-hmm. And so one of our past presidents was a drug agent, and mm-hmm. he did a lot of work on Colombian drug trade. And so, we just want to protect those guys. Absolutely. Once they retire. They're not so afraid. They just don't want their families targeted.
Yes, absolutely.
And we've had a few of those incidents occur.
That's right.
And so we wanted to make sure that they were protected. Mm-hmm. Moving to the budget amendments, mm-hmm. We appreciate you listening to us about the enhanced retirement benefits through the hazard duty pay. And the reason that we ask you is, we have guys who are retiring because of the stress of the job that still have families, and those mm-hmm. family, once you retire, that family insurance is like $2,600 a month. Mm-hmm. And of course, the hazard duty supplement right now is $1,407. It'll go up in July because they adjust it with Social Security's cost of living. I think it goes to $1,488. But it takes a lot of their retirement away, so they have to go get another job after they leave this stressful job. And mm-hmm. The average age still for anyone that remains in law enforcement is age 66, mm-hmm. so you're really not going to benefit from anything else.
Sure.
And even though we're wanting them and tried to keep them healthy to mm-hmm. where they can live longer, it's very tough with a stressful job like this. But, you reach out to us about that issue. Mm-hmm. And then you talk to us about the fairness issue with 911 dispatchers, mm-hmm. and that our dispatchers are not covered under that 9.3 that the governor put for increases, and we're facing a 20% shortfall of dispatchers. So mm-hmm. those were very helpful to get in place. Mm-hmm. That being said, Sunday the budget comes out, I think, and so. We're just crossing our fingers, but having now looked at VRS's estimate on mm-hmm. how much that increase is, I'm trying to be optimistic, but I know how the budget works.
I understand. Yes.
Served on finance for 6 years.
We know how it works.
We just wanted to thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
And anything that you can tell us today about how you feel the budget's going to go. We love to know.
Yeah, I feel like we're in a world of uncertainty right now, because some of our federal grant money, I believe, is on pause. So once we know what's happening with that, then we'll be able to have a more realistic view of what the parameters of our budget can be, what can be funded, what cannot be funded. And so we're going to do the best we can to ensure that all of our social safety nets, all of our government employees, all of our troopers, everyone is paid, and we have a very fair budget, a structured budget, well-balanced budget. But at this moment, I think we're just a little bit in a world of uncertainty. But I think it's all about persistence. And so I just remember recently we gave Virginia State troopers a pay increase, and that took some time, right? But you have, and I want to make sure that the troopers know, so many people in the General Assembly that support our law enforcement officers and our troopers. And so we were able to get it done. And once we find out that there are deficits, such as the hazard pay, and just we need more dispatchers, because people forget that they are really on the front lines as well. You know, they get these traumatic calls and they're walking people through catastrophic events. And, you know, the type of trauma that they get every single day, it wears down on you and their mental health. So the turnover is very high. So whatever we can do to incentivize them to stay, to help them, I mean, that's what we need to do. We want to do, because we want to keep our community safe, our law enforcement officers safe. But I think once we have a better view of what money we have coming in from the federal government, we can have a better idea of what we can pay for.
Well, I think I saw today that a federal judge had put a pause on the fact that that his order could not take this money away.
Yeah.
So I don't know how far that will go. But, you know, when you talk about the funding that we received to get us caught up from that compression, one of the confusions from the subcommittee, and I went back and talked to each one of them, was the additional 1.4% that was in the budget for state police. And a lot of people thought that that was additional monies on top of raises. And that's not what that is. And it's from the JLARC study when you all did pass the $48 million to fix the compression problem. This 1.4% is for each year to adjust that chart, and everyone in the state police does not get that. It's just to move your years of service and promotions within that department, and it's capped at 30 years. So it's not like everyone receives 1.4%.
Yeah.
And that was the part that we were trying to educate the subcommittee on, because when it was presented, it was 1.4% additional increase, and that's not exactly what that is.
Yes.
So, you know, we've been down here all year. We've seen how fast things are moving, and you know, it's just getting to cross over, take a breath, and see where we go from there. But our bill should be fine. I mean, it was 39-0.
That's right.
Delegate Henson on the other side, I think he was very helpful, and it was uncontested there. So at crossover, they should be going to the governor.
Be good to go. That's right. And I just wanted to take the time to tell you thank you. And I hope everyone understands that they, you know, have a wonderful person who's down here in the General Assembly, knows how the sausage is made, who's working hard and advocating and educating and uplifting the issues for our Virginia State troopers in a real substantive way. So you make all of our jobs easier, because you were right here in our shoes making these tough choices about what we're going to pay for, what we can't. And we want to do so many good things, but, you know, the purse is only so big. And so just making sure that when you show up, you're fighting and you're advocating and you're relentless. And that is phenomenal. And I just hope everyone knows that, because sometimes it's not always it's sometimes a thankless job, right? Well, but you're in this for the right reason, and you're doing a phenomenal job. And I'm so happy to work in partnership with you.
Well, I appreciate that. And, you know, a lot of people sometimes had concerns because when you were elected, you were a Republican or a Democrat. And and I tell them all, look, it's not about that anymore. No. It's about the state police. And I had just as many friends on the Democratic side as I did on the Republican side. It's always a part of how this process works. Yeah. You agree to disagree on things and move on, and you don't have enemies as you walk away. And so it's been very enlightening for me to not be mixed up in the politics anymore and be here just for
about the policy.
About the policy of one specific thing.
Yeah, I love it. And whenever people in general can work in a bipartisan fashion and focus on the end goal, which is, making Virginia better for everyone, I think, it's a win for everyone.
It is. Well, thank you for your time.
Yes,
I know
of course.
you're busy
Thank you.
and we've got to get to other committees. So
absolutely.
You have a blessed day and
Thank you
for sitting down with us.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.